Okay, so this is a follow-up video to the video that I made in follow-up of my write-up. Really quick, I'm going to compare 4 or 5 different SMGs here really quick. Tarrabah, Recluse, Might Mini Tool, and a Hero's Burden. Okay, these are all really top-tier-ish SMGs for PvE and PvP. I set out about 20 meters away from this ogre, and then I did some body shot damage for TTK comparisons on all of these weapons on this Vandal right here, as many as I could, so you can get as many numbers as you want looking at this Vandal while I'm shooting it for comparison on body shot damage. And then also, after I kill the Vandal, I use any activated perk, transfer it over to the Ogre, and have the fastest TTK available to the weapon on the Ogre from 20 meters. Okay, so this is to give it a well-rounded kind of access to what kind of a general play with the weapon would be like with an SMG if you're trying to fight at the outer reaches of the range of an SMG in either PvP or kind of PvE. Shots are kind of going to go all over the place because it's an SMG on controller. It's not a completely dedicated, simple, straightforward, no variables excluded kind of test, but what it is, it's a well-rounded test looking at outer extremes of SMG capability in kind of like a wide variety of disciplines when you're looking at the perk synergy, DPS output, and ranged DPS output on multiple different targets. It also looks at perk synergy and how much sealing there is for perk damage and perk sealing when applying damage after perks are activated onto separate targets. And what that can do for your weapon, and what that can transfer in terms of like an analog for damage comparisons for other weapons. So obviously the winner here is going to be Tarrabah, because Tarrabah is ridiculous, right? Tarrabah is ridiculous when it comes to its activated perk. In PvE, there's really not a better SMG. Recluse is good, but Tarrabah is light years better. It's not even funny, right? I like, this Recluse was kind of comparable to the Hero's Burden, kind of, but I don't know, I kind of feel like the Hero's Burden was a little better just because of that extra range. But this is what the Tarrabah does, and then after this I've got the runner-up, in my opinion, which is the Might Mini with Surrounded, which is pretty dope, because it has the same kind of damage buff, same type of damage ceiling as the Tarrabah, but it's not an exotic. And it's still a lightweight, so you get the stat boost as well. It has a more conditional perk, but in PvP or in PvE, having a perk like Surrounded is extremely good. And Might Mini is the only SMG I'm aware of that can get it. So Tarrabah does what Tarrabah does. From this range, I think that's hitting 8,000, something like that. 8,000 per crit, which is just bonkers. It 3-bursted that Ogre down from 20 meters. Which is kind of stupid, stupid strong. And then the Might Mini is kind of, it's close in terms, it's the next closest because it has more access to its perk for however long Surrounded is active, right? So if you're looking for a PvE weapon, Surrounded is kind of like the perk that you want to look for, especially if you're using it for like a raid or a top tier raid or something like that. It's a lightweight frame, it's got a really rapid fire rate, it's got a solar energy, so it's good for taking down shields, much like the Tarrabah. And then if you've got perks like Lunafaction Well or Rally Barricade, this can help you burst down any kind of major that you might find on the battlefield. So I actually kind of really am in favor of the Might Mini tool in terms of DPS weapons for the sandbox when comparing it across the other analogs. Hero's Burden was also a really nice one. And then Recluse is obviously going to be very good, but I wanted to make this video really quick to show that there are comparable analogs. Now, I step into range for the Might Mini tool a little bit more, and you can see that it's hitting for a lot higher values. It's hitting for 5,000, so that gives it a much better damage threshold, which puts it in more contention with the Tarrabah. So that's kind of why I did that test at 20 meters.